The Battle of Waterloo wasn't something that just affected, main parties like Napoleon or the Duke of Wellington. It affected the foot soldiers and just generals and everyone, and it affected their families and everything around them. For example, Sir William de Lancey, who was appointed Chief of Staff by the Duke of Wellington. Within the first few hours of the battle, he was actually riding beside Wellington, and he was shot by a cannon in the right back shoulder and was shot off his horse several yards. And everyone that saw it happen assumed he was dead. How could you survive such a fatal wound? But some soldiers behind him did see him and went to his aid and discovered he was in fact alive. Sir William actually begged them to just let him die on the field, die like a soldier. But they saw that he did have the potential chance to survive from this wound and to continue his life, so they dragged him to a barn-like shelter right outside of the battle. Within the shelter, you could hear the battle outside and smell the gunpowder and all of that. So as he was being nursed back to health, his wife, Magdalene de Lancey, was actually waiting for him in Brussels. She followed him to Brussels outside of the battle to aid him, to be close to him when the battle was over, to be of any help to anyone around him within the British troops. And as she waited, she was actually torn in several different directions, because first of all, she's already scared and nervous and anxious to see her husband again. But the first word she catches from the battle is from Captain Mitchell. And he comes to her and he tells her, "Magdalene, he's alive, he's alive." But the only evidence he had of that was that he was not on the killed or wounded list. So it still wasn't a completely positive thing, but she did have that hope, that more solidified hope that her husband would be coming home to her. So she was waiting anxiously, and several hours later, Lady Hamilton brought her into a room, sat her down, and had to break the news to her that her husband was dead. And Lady Hamilton helped write this list, and so she was pretty sure that he was in fact dead. Magdalene was devastated, just devastated. She went to her room, she wouldn't eat, she wouldn't talk to anyone. She cried, she didn't know how to handle herself. The love of her life had just passed, and she didn't really even get to say goodbye because she had such a hope that he would survive. But again, several hours later from that, they received a letter from a soldier who had been with and seen Sir William alive. And he said, "Find my wife, for she is the last thing I want to see. She is who I want to be with." Even the amount of pain he was in, he still wanted to see Magdalene. And of course, she was, she didn't believe it at first. There's no way she could get all these different news. He was still alive, but she came to, she realized he was alive, and she took a carriage, brought her maid Emma along with her, and they went to the Battle of Waterloo as fast as they possibly could, and they found him in the barn. He was laying on a small cot, hard as a rock, wounded, hurt, just in absolute tormenting pain, and he still was able to put a smile on her. She was able to be with him, and she nursed him back to health. Well, attempted to nurse him back to health. There was 2 surgeons there as well who were there and changing his dressing on his wound and helping him to survive, feeding him what he could eat, which was soggy bread because dipped in water. She didn't sleep, she didn't eat, she stayed with him, she watched him, all of that. By the end, even the surgeons were saying, she could just do this job on her own because she knows it like the back of her hand, because she was so attentive to what was going on and so just wanted more than anything for her husband to survive from this. Towards the end of the several days, she realized that there wasn't much hope, and even the hope that the surgeons were giving her that Sir William would survive was false hope. But she still stayed with him, she still didn't sleep, she laid with him, all of this. did unfortunately end up passing from his lungs filling up with blood, and he drowned within that. She actually wrote an account of his death and her experience and all of her thoughts and her feelings towards what was happening. And a quote that she says is, right after he died, was, "Now there was nothing imaginary. All was real misery. There now remained not even a chance of happiness, but what depended on the retrospect of better days and duties fulfilled." She knew she had to continue her life, but never again would she cease to feel this misery of watching her husband die and being near the battle. And she even describes that she got there the day after the battle, but she could still smell the blood and the gunpowder. An estimated 48,000 men died at the Battle of Waterloo. And you think that number in itself is an outstanding number, just so many men. But it didn't just affect them. It was all their family. They were sons. They had daughters. They had people at home that loved them. And it affected all of them. Changed all of their lives, no matter if it was the Allies or the French, of the soldiers.